Chapter 1631. Orissa declined, not wanting to cause any trouble. No, thank you. She could handle skipping a meal. Although she was feeling a bit hungry now, she could manage since she had already eaten breakfast earlier. Miss York, it's almost lunchtime. What would you like to eat? I can have it brought over from the kitchen. The guard at the door asked, treating her as if she were a member of Jeremiah's family. When will Commander Hoffman be back? Orissa didn't answer his question but instead inquired about Jeremiah. I'm not sure, but Commander Hoffman is currently out. The guard glanced at her. The exact timing of Jeremiah's return wasn't information that soldiers like him had access to. Orissa's eyes flashed. Jeremiah was out, yet he had them brought in and made them wait. Is this intentional? I'll have 3 servings of whatever your cafeteria serves. If she had to wait here, she wouldn't starve herself foolishly. If she had to wait, she might as well eat. She had never tasted food prepared by the military, so she might as well give it a try. Sure, I'll let them know right away. Upon receiving the message, the guard immediately walked over to the window and reported, deliver 3 servings of food to Commander Hoffman's dorm. Orissa glanced over but didn't pay much attention. The delivery was quick. The cafeteria staff personally brought the dishes. They assumed Jeremiah was present, so the dishes were plentiful and appetizing, a feast for all the senses. There was even soup, and fruit was included as well. Are you Commander Hoffman's family? Why have I never seen you before? One of them was quite talkative. While setting the table, he couldn't help but strike up a conversation with Orissa. His eyes were constantly sizing up Orissa, who was beautiful. Is she Commander Hoffman's girlfriend? But Commander Hoffman is old enough to be her father. Is he robbing the cradle? The person's imagination was quite active. Orissa knew he had misunderstood. She wasn't Jeremiah, relative but was staying in his dorm. Distant relatives, she simply said to avoid unnecessary trouble. Oh, so you're relatives. I thought you might be Commander Hoffman's romantic interest. Beautiful, do you have a boyfriend? Numerous rumors were circulating outside that Jeremiah's partner had arrived. Everyone urged him to seize this opportunity to investigate the truth. Words escaped Orissa. Is Jeremiah not married? One of the bodyguards, irritated by the guy trying to pry into their boss's personal life, replied, she's married. The man glanced at the 2 bodyguards and gave an awkward smile. I was just curious. Calm down. Enjoy your meal. If it's not enough, we'll bring more later. Thank you. Orissa nodded and motioned to the 2 bodyguards. Let's eat. The food here was quite delicious and suited her taste. After the meal, Orissa had a bit of fruit and felt satisfied. Mrs. Graham, please have a bit more. No, thank you. You 2 can finish the rest. I've had enough. Orissa cleared her own dishes. Miss York, you can leave it. I'll take care of it. The guard at the door came in to help clean up. Thank you. Orissa felt a bit embarrassed by his eagerness. He smiled shyly. No trouble at all. This is nothing. I have it much easier than the other guys. Orissa chuckled. You should go eat. We'll wait here on our own. I can't. It's against the rules to leave our posts. A colleague will come to take over my post soon, and then I'll go eat. I'm not hungry yet. He efficiently cleaned up, setting the dishes aside for the bodyguards to take to the kitchen later. Orissa was aware of her responsibility to monitor them and prevent any tampering, so she refrained from saying much more. Chapter 1632. After enjoying a satisfying meal, Orissa began to feel drowsy. She rested her head against the sofa armrest and used a pillow to take a short nap. It was already noon, and Jeremiah should be returning soon. Upon arriving at the prison, Jeremiah met with the person in charge before proceeding to the interrogation room. When Benjamin saw him, he cast a quick glance. I heard that you would only speak if you saw me, Jeremiah said as he sat across from Benjamin. Despite the predicament, Benjamin showed no signs of distress. It was uncommon for a young man to be so composed and calm, which unexpectedly earned Jeremiah's admiration for Benjamin. You're the commander-in-chief of the West, and the rest are insignificant, Benjamin calmly stated, showing no signs of panic despite being in a difficult situation. Jeremiah smiled and sighed. I didn't expect you to end up here. Betraying the country is a serious offense. Why involve yourself in activities that harm both you and the nation? If your father knew his most favored son was doing this, he would be quite disappointed. Benjamin snorted. Do you really think I needed to create all of this? Jeremiah raised an eyebrow, maintaining steady eye contact with Benjamin. Was it your command to bring me in? Benjamin also stared directly at Jeremiah, a storm brewing in his eyes. He wanted to understand Jeremiah's role in this scenario. Do you think I gave the order? Jeremiah didn't deny it and countered with a question. He had only learned about Benjamin's arrest this morning, charged with manufacturing contraband. He was apprehended by the Northwest Division and then transferred to the base prison after reporting to Jeremiah. Benjamin's gaze was deep and inscrutable. The Northwest Division is also under your jurisdiction, isn't it? Would they dare to arrest me without your command? Benjamin probed Jeremiah without revealing his emotions. Jeremiah glanced at Benjamin. It really wasn't my order. The situation was urgent, so they apprehended you on the spot before reporting back to me. For special assignments, the Northwest Division had the authority to make its own decisions, especially in matters that could potentially harm their interests. Benjamin looked at Jeremiah, assessing the truth in his words. Jeremiah glanced at the time and suddenly said, "Before I came to see you, your wife had already come to the base looking for me. I haven't had the chance to meet her yet." A frown appeared on Benjamin's forehead. How did Issa find out about my arrest? Isn't that too fast? What do you mean by saying that? How could my wife possibly come here looking for you? If Arissa had known that he was captured, her first response would have been to seek help in Delmore, rather than rushing to Jocasta immediately. Jeremiah's lips curled unapologetically. It was probably for the sake of your two sons. Benjamin didn't understand Jeremiah's meaning. He wondered how the conversation had somehow circled back to the children. Commander Hoffman, speak clearly. I don't understand. I invited your two sons to my house as guests. She probably hurried over for them, Jeremiah calmly explained, as if he wasn't the one who had orchestrated this. Benjamin narrowed his eyes. It certainly didn't sound as pleasant as Jeremiah claimed it to be. You kidnapped my sons, Benjamin asserted, glaring at Jeremiah. I just wanted to get to know the two boys. It wasn't that serious. They resemble you a lot when you were young. They're quite cute. Even Jeremiah, who wasn't particularly fond of children, couldn't help but grow fond of the two little ones. Benjamin let out a cold huff. Even if you use them to threaten me, I will not admit to this crime. Knowing that Benjamin had misunderstood, Jeremiah chose not to clarify. He too was curious to find out whether Benjamin had actually committed a crime. When you were arrested, the evidence was conclusive. There is a document bearing your signature that proves you were involved in the production of those illegal goods. Ha! Those items are not related to us at all. It is too naive to accuse me based on such evidence. If you still insist on accusing me, then I have nothing further to say. I want to see L. Benjamin gazed at Jeremiah with a cold stare. Regardless of Jeremiah's involvement, he no longer had any trust in this man. Upon hearing Benjamin's request, Jeremiah was surprised. Chapter 1633. Jeremiah narrowed his eyes, staring directly at Benjamin's composed and stoic face. He was utterly shocked. Which L? Jeremiah questioned skeptically. This person was the top leader of the National Security Agency, and there was even a more secretive figure rumored to be at the same level. But apart from L, no one had seen this person. Benjamin's thin lips moved slightly, revealing an answer that left Jeremiah utterly shocked. The L you know of, Lucian Zabel. After a few seconds of shock, Jeremiah managed to compose himself. Could it be that Benjamin knew about L? Was he also a member of the National Security Agency? You are. Jeremiah squinted at Benjamin. It was unexpected yet not surprising for Benjamin to hold such a position. After all, Benjamin's sudden departure from the military back then was quite unexpected. Let him know. Benjamin uttered these words, then closed his eyes. Clearly, he refused to talk more. Jeremiah glanced at Benjamin, acknowledging the young man's resilience. Even when faced with the mention of his wife and children, Benjamin remained unfazed. Rising from his seat, Jeremiah left with the parting words, "I will inform him to come over." If Benjamin was affiliated with the National Security Agency, there was little Jeremiah could do. That organization held authority above them, and aside from the highest-ranking individual, no one could interrogate them. Once the door closed, Benjamin opened his eyes. Deep within his gaze, a hint of concern lingered. Although he didn't show any panic in front of Jeremiah, only he knew that his heart was uneasy. With his children in Jeremiah's hands and Orissa at his base, the threats were imminent. He had to get out as soon as possible. That was why he mentioned Elle to Jeremiah. Unless absolutely necessary, he couldn't reveal his identity. This time, Jeremiah stumbled upon his secret. Even if Jeremiah guessed correctly, there was nothing he could do about it. Benjamin had no intention of being detained here. He had located Kingsley and Jack, so he played along to gauge Jeremiah's stance. After leaving the interrogation room, Jeremiah instructed his men to take good care of Benjamin and the others before he departed. "Commander Hoffman, have we gotten any information out of him yet?" "Benjamin is a tough nut to crack. He refuses to say anything unless he sees you." The deputy officer, George Farrell, who had apprehended Benjamin, was eager to prove his worth. If it weren't for Benjamin's status, he would have resorted to torture. Jeremiah glanced at him, his gaze profound. "He didn't say anything. How did you catch them? Tell me again." Despite the earlier report, Jeremiah wanted to hear it again. He fiddled with the rosary beads in his hands. Those who knew him understood that this was a sign he was getting angry. George swallowed nervously and mustered his courage. "We received a tip, and I led a team there. Benjamin and the others were inside. All those contrabands were there." With a swift kick, Jeremiah sent George sprawling to the ground. "Tell the truth, Commander Hoffman. I speak nothing but the truth. Benjamin has been secretly manufacturing contrabands, a crime punishable by death." George insisted stubbornly, intent on eliminating Benjamin. Jeremiah's gaze became even angrier as he scolded, "Idiot! Someone, take him away. He's not to be released without my orders." George had actually been bribed. Even now, he remained stubborn. George's face was filled with fear. "Commander Hoffman, I'm telling the truth. I deserve credit for capturing them, and you can't detain me." Jeremiah laughed coldly, utterly disappointed. "Even on the brink of death, you still don't realize your mistakes. Reflect on it well in prison. I'll give you another chance." He had to root out every single one of those pests. After having George taken away, Jeremiah left the base prison, his face stern. Compared to his previous demeanor, he now appeared even more intimidating. Joseph, who was behind the wheel, didn't dare utter a word, barely allowing himself to breathe. Jeremiah furrowed his brow before dialing a number to inform Elle directly, "Chief Zabel, Benjamin wishes to meet with you." There was a brief pause on the other end. As expected, they had already received news of Benjamin's arrest. Even without Jeremiah's notification, Chief Zabel would have reached out to him. "It's quite uncommon to receive a call from you, Commander Hoffman. Since you've personally extended the invitation, I suppose I can make the effort to come over." Jeremiah was left speechless. Chapter 1634. When Jeremiah returned to the base, it was almost 1 o'clock. Joseph glanced at the rearview mirror. "Commander Hoffman, would you like to go to the cafeteria first or have someone deliver food to the dormitory?" It was already past lunchtime, so if they went to the cafeteria, the staff would have to cook again. "Let's go to the cafeteria," Jeremiah said, not wanting too much trouble. In that moment, he forgot that Orissa was waiting in the dormitory and gave his instructions accordingly. However, Joseph remembered. He couldn't afford to forget these matters and was just about to remind Jeremiah when Jeremiah's phone started vibrating. "Yes, I just got back. What's up?" Jeremiah answered. After listening to the other end, Jeremiah responded, "I'm heading to the cafeteria now. If you're free, come over and we can discuss things over a meal." It was a convenient time to discuss matters while eating. Joseph hesitated for a moment but decided to remind Jeremiah later. Military matters were crucial. The car went straight to the cafeteria. As Jeremiah got out, he suddenly remembered that Orissa had come to find him and paused for a moment. He paused and instructed Joseph, "Arrange for someone to bring food to my dormitory. Check on the people there and make sure they don't go hungry." He had no idea what his subordinates wanted from him, and it wasn't something that could be resolved quickly. He couldn't return to his dormitory now. He had no choice but to let Benjamin's wife continue waiting. "Yes, Commander Hoffman, I thought you had forgotten. I was just about to remind you," Joseph responded, glancing at Jeremiah. He felt that Jeremiah's mood wasn't as terrifying as it was when he had just left the prison. "Remind me promptly if anything comes up in the future." Jeremiah glanced at him, then strode into the private room of the cafeteria. After a short while, several subordinates arrived, ready to discuss matters related to the drill. Joseph went to instruct the kitchen to prepare meals for Jeremiah and the others. He also ordered extra meals to be delivered to the dormitory. "Commander Hoffman's dormitory, we already delivered their meals at 11:30. They've already eaten." "They've eaten." The security officer was surprised. If they had eaten, that was good. "Since they've eaten, there's no need to prepare again. I delivered it. That woman is quite beautiful. I thought she was Commander Hoffman's partner, but it turns out she's already married." The man spoke with a sense of regret, then continued to probe the guard. "Hey, what's the relationship between that woman and Commander Hoffman? Why have I never seen her before?" Joseph was at a loss for words and struck the man's head. "You're even gossiping about Commander Hoffman's personal affairs. Do you have a death wish? Hurry up and prepare the food. Commander Hoffman is not in a good mood today, so be careful." Joseph left after giving the order. The man rubbed his head, grumbling, "If you don't want to talk, just say so. Why resort to violence? What are you looking at? Hurry up. Commander Hoffman and the rest are waiting for their meal." Seeing his colleagues laughing at him, he barked out these words and got to work. In Jeremiah's dormitory, Orissa had been napping for a while, but there was still no sign of Jeremiah. The bodyguard stood up and asked the guards at the door, "When is your leader coming back?" Orissa had rushed over from Jocasta without taking a proper rest. She still hadn't seen Jeremiah. If she continued to wait, there was no telling how much longer it would be. "I'm not sure." The guard shook his head. He couldn't urge his superior over the phone. "Why don't you give Commander Hoffman a call? Perhaps he's been so busy that he forgot." Orissa and the others didn't have Jeremiah's contact information, so they could only continue waiting. "It's all right, let's just keep waiting." Orissa signaled for the bodyguard to come back, urging him not to rush. After all, they wouldn't leave until they met Jeremiah. Little did they know, Jeremiah had already returned to the base and was currently seething with anger. "The drill is scheduled to begin in a couple of days, and you're telling me the network isn't ready yet? What on earth are the tech guys doing?" His subordinates dared not make a sound. One of them, responsible for this area, nervously spoke up. "We fixed it this morning, but it broke again. I suspect someone is secretly sabotaging it. Show me the evidence." Jeremiah glared at him. Suspicions were pointless. Chapter 1635. Tension filled the air as all available technical personnel were deployed, yet the root of the problem remained elusive. "Commander Hoffman, should we consider hiring external technical staff? If our internal talent can't handle it, perhaps we could bring in more cutting-edge expertise from outside. The only challenge is getting in touch with them," suggested Jeremiah. Jeremiah's face darkened. This was indeed a good idea. "You take charge of finding people. I'll give you half a day," he ordered. Yes, although time was running out, there were still options available in the industry. The only issue was the troublesome background checks. "Keep a close eye on everything. Don't let anything slip through the cracks," Jeremiah sternly commanded. "Yes, Commander Hoffman." Everyone promptly stood up in response. Jeremiah glanced at them, wiped his mouth, and stood up to leave. "Go ahead and eat." "I'm leaving." "Commander Hoffman, won't you eat more? You've barely touched your food." Everyone looked at the dishes on the table, noticing that Jeremiah had hardly eaten anything. Jeremiah left without responding, leaving them confused. "It's all your fault. You had to discuss matters with Commander Hoffman during mealtime, affecting his appetite. How can you blame me? Didn't you all agree? Commander Hoffman seemed in a bad mood when he came back just now. Maybe Commander Hoffman rushed back to meet that woman. I wonder who she is. Have any of you seen her before? I haven't seen her, but it's strange. She seems a bit familiar, like I've seen her somewhere. This time, Jeremiah returned to his dormitory. Orissa had waited for him for almost half a day, yet she didn't create any fuss, earning his admiration. Commander Hoffman. The guard at the door saluted upon seeing him return. Jeremiah nodded. Are they still here? They are. Miss York has been waiting for you. The guard stepped aside to let him in. Upon hearing the movement at the door, Orissa woke up and sat up straight. As she had her back to the door, Jeremiah saw only her silhouette when he entered. The moment Orissa turned her head around, Jeremiah's gaze was captivated, and an uncontrollable fervor rose in his chest. The resemblance was too uncanny. Seeing Jeremiah's strange expression upon looking at her, Orissa felt puzzled. They hadn't met before. Dressed in military attire, Jeremiah exuded an aura of authority that commanded respect. His sharply defined features showed no signs of aging. Jeremiah was handsome among middle-aged men, and it was evident that he was even more dashing when he was younger. Before she met Jeremiah, Orissa didn't have a good impression of him. However, the moment she saw Jeremiah, she felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity deep in her heart. You are Benjamin's wife. Jeremiah snapped back to reality, suppressing the odd feelings welling up within him. He approached Orissa and took a seat on the single-seater sofa. Upon seeing Jeremiah, the two bodyguards had already risen and positioned themselves behind Orissa, subtly enhancing her presence. Yes, my name is Orissa York. Orissa responded calmly, meeting Jeremiah's scrutinizing gaze. You must be Jeremiah Hoffman. Jeremiah's lips curled. Indeed, he wasn't angry with her for addressing him by his name directly. Her courage to come looking for him at the base was commendable. As Benjamin's wife, she indeed carried a bit of Benjamin's aura. Commander Hoffman, I presume you already know why I'm here today, Orissa said, wasting no time in getting to the point as soon as she finally got to see him. I want to know if you came for your children or your husband. Jeremiah looked directly at Orissa. Her eyes and brows bore a striking resemblance to that person. It felt as if he was looking at that person sitting in front of him, as if they had just met yesterday. Jeremiah was deep in thought. Orissa was surprised, not understanding why Jeremiah would ask such a question. I came here mainly for my children. What does this have to do with Benjamin? Did something actually happen to him? Chapter 1636. She must not panic. Perhaps Jeremiah was trying to deceive her, or maybe the incident at the base had something to do with him. That could be why he was testing her. Jeremiah had brought the two children here for no other reason than to intimidate them. Orissa suppressed the panic in her eyes, regained her calm demeanor, and responded to Jeremiah. It isn't just for my children, but also for my husband. My husband is away on a business trip, so naturally, I came here to take the children home. I also hope that Commander Hoffman could show mercy and spare them. Jeremiah's gaze fell upon her delicate face. He didn't miss the moment of panic that Orissa had just displayed. The fact that she could calm down so quickly, not swayed by his words, showed her intelligence. Originally, Jeremiah intended to tell Orissa that Benjamin was currently imprisoned at the base, curious about what choice she would make. However, upon seeing her familiar face, he found himself unable to utter the words. Have you had lunch? Jeremiah abruptly changed the topic, not giving Orissa a clear answer. Orissa furrowed her brows slightly but still responded to him, We've already eaten. The food here is quite good. Upon seeing that her actions were not mere formalities, Jeremiah revealed a hint of a smile. The usually stern person suddenly smiled. Coupled with Jeremiah's handsome face, it was quite a sight to behold, adding a considerable amount of charm and warmth. Orissa couldn't help but glance at him, unsure of Jeremiah's intentions. However, her concern for the children was overwhelming, and she couldn't help but steer the conversation back to the main issue, hoping that Jeremiah would relent. "Commander Hoffman, my children." Jeremiah raised his hand, stopping her from speaking further. "Don't worry. I still have a lot of things to deal with in my team. After I'm done, I'll take you back to the Hoffman residence. Do rest here for now." Orissa stood up and looked directly at Jeremiah. How could she possibly stay here calmly when it was clear that Jeremiah had no intention of letting her go? "Commander Hoffman, let's be frank. What exactly are your intentions for bringing my 2 children to your home? I hope that you can consider the Graham family's sake and not make things difficult for them. They seldom part from us and are already missing home. I want to take them back right away. Old Mr. Graham is also waiting for them at home." Jeremiah had been beating around the bush, leaving Orissa with no choice but to bring up the Graham family and Darius. The Graham family was one not to be trifled with. Once trouble arose, it benefited no one, especially someone in a high position like Jeremiah, who couldn't afford the slightest stain on his reputation. She had come here to find him out of respect for him, yet she hadn't expected that Jeremiah would still refuse to yield even now. It was clear that Orissa was angry. However, Jeremiah was more focused on her belly. Just moments ago, Orissa was sitting on the couch, clutching a pillow in her arms. But now that she had stood up, her condition was quite evident. "How many months has it been?" Jeremiah was taken aback upon learning of Orissa's pregnancy, his feelings somewhat unclear. Orissa's hands hung by her sides, instinctively pressing against her belly. Her radiant eyes were filled with caution, mirroring the instinctive protective state of a mother when threatened. Seeing her nervousness, Jeremiah spoke in a soothing tone. "Don't be nervous. I'm just asking. It seems that her relationship with Benjamin is very good. Otherwise, she wouldn't have become pregnant again." Orissa did not dare to let her guard down, but she believed that Jeremiah would not stoop so low as to threaten them with the child in her belly, so she responded accordingly. "It's been over 4 months. Jeremiah nodded, not asking any further questions. He was never one to indulge in gossip. Just at that moment, a subordinate came to see him. It was about a matter concerning the internet technician. "Commander Hoffman, I have already identified a few candidates. They are currently traveling near Jocasta and can be contacted. They can also come over as soon as possible. Please take a look." Jeremiah took the list. His demeanor was no longer as friendly as when he was facing Orissa, his expression solemn. "Who has the best skills?" "Ivan Lachlan. He's quite famous in the industry. If we invite him over, he can definitely handle it." The subordinate was quite confident. Orissa was right here, naturally hearing their conversation loud and clear. Upon hearing Ivan's name, a glint flashed across her eyes. Chapter 1637. They are discussing internet issues, aren't they? She had naturally heard of this Ivan, as they were both in the same industry. However, she wasn't very familiar with him. She had heard from others that Ivan was quite arrogant, always seeking fame and recognition. As for his skills, they were said to be inferior to those of other senior technicians. Orissa glanced at Jeremiah, then at his subordinate. Coincidentally, the subordinate was also looking at her. Their eyes met, but she didn't feel awkward. The other party nodded at her, possibly assuming she was a relative of Jeremiah, and his attitude was quite friendly. "Bring that person over for a trial. Make sure their background is thoroughly checked." Jeremiah lifted his gaze and glanced at his subordinate. Seeing him looking at Orissa, he also cast a glance in that direction. Meeting their gazes simultaneously, Orissa didn't feel embarrassed about eavesdropping their conversation. She was completely unabashed. After all, if they wanted to avoid it, they wouldn't say it in front of her, let alone when there was more than just her present. "Are you looking for Ivan because of an internet issue?" Even though she had already guessed, she still wanted to confirm to avoid any potential misunderstandings. Who knows, maybe this Ivan was involved in something else. If Jeremiah were to employ her, she would be fully capable of resolving the communication issues here. In time, she could also use this opportunity to discuss the matter of the children with Jeremiah. Seeing her contributions, Jeremiah might be willing to let the 2 children go. Before ending up in a fallout with him, She wanted to try every other possible method to save the children. When it was possible to have a conversation, that was naturally the best solution. There was no need to create a deadlock. Offending someone like Jeremiah wouldn't do them any good. Upon hearing her words, Jeremiah raised an eyebrow. How did she know about the communication issues within the department? Before Jeremiah could even ask, his subordinate had already posed the question, much to his surprise. How did you find out? His tone became stern, revealing what happened here was no laughing matter. Orissa swallowed, not mentioning the people at the checkpoint. While waiting here for Commander Hoffman, I overheard someone mentioning it downstairs. This was a residential building, so naturally, there were people moving about below. It was only normal for conversations and chatter to arise. After all, the family members living here knew about certain things to some extent. The subordinate glanced at Orissa, deciding to believe her. After all, he thought this beautiful woman was Jeremiah's family member, so knowing wasn't a big deal. They wouldn't pursue it either. Even though he had these thoughts, he still warned Orissa, "It's fine if you know. Don't let it slip out." Orissa responded with a smile, "Of course, I understand the rules here. Whatever I see or hear, I will act as if I have forgotten it once I leave the base." She looked at Jeremiah, eager to take on this task. "Commander Hoffman, I also work in the field of internet technology, and I am confident that my skills are superior to Ivan's. You can trust me. There's no need to look far when help is close at hand. I can solve this problem for you right now." "You can." The subordinate looked at Orissa in shock, not expecting that she, a seemingly delicate woman, was actually a talent in the IT field. Orissa nodded. "It's my specialty." It was her prized skill set. Never would she forget about it. Jeremiah sized her up, seemingly contemplating, but he hadn't made a decision yet. "If you don't believe me, you can check the education system. My identification number in the talent database is." In order to demonstrate her skills, Orissa recited her certification number, urging them to verify it. "I'm also the current technical director of cybersecurity at Graham Group. You're really good at this, aren't you?" The subordinate was astounded, reaching for his phone to log into the system and verify whether what Orissa had said was true. However, he felt something was amiss at the same time. "No need to check further. Take her over to have a look." Jeremiah spoke up, deciding to let Orissa give it a try. She could help them resolve the communication issue, so there was no need for them to hire anyone else. Bringing in others would take time, and Jeremiah just wanted to solve this problem as quickly as possible. The subordinate halted his search, turning his gaze toward Jeremiah. "Get going already." Jeremiah glared at him. "Understood." Chapter 1638. Thus, Orissa followed Jeremiah and his group toward the communications department while the two bodyguards assigned to protect her were stopped at the door. Orissa understood and didn't mind. Without wasting words, she immediately set to work to identify the problem. Jeremiah, along with the subordinate who had just arrived and several others who had come to inquire, all stood behind Orissa, watching intently without blinking an eye. Everyone wanted to see if Orissa really had what it took. Upon seeing Orissa's proficient skills, they thought she was indeed very capable, and this elicited a variety of expressions from everyone. "She really knows what she's doing. Not only that, but she also seems incredibly skilled, even more so than our technicians. I've seen hackers like her with screens full of rapidly flashing codes. I can't believe Commander Hoffman kept her hidden and didn't call her in sooner. If she had been brought in earlier, perhaps our communication issues would have been resolved by now. It's not certain yet. Generally, technical personnel can handle this, but the key is whether they can fix it or not." Some people believed while others remained skeptical. She must have had some skills to dare to come over for a trial. What? Her relationship with Commander Hoffman? I'm not sure about her relationship with Commander Hoffman either. She doesn't seem like his family member. When I went to see Commander Hoffman earlier, their conversation seemed unfamiliar, but the commander didn't allow me to investigate her background. He directly ordered me to bring her here. The subordinate finally realized something was amiss. The person whom the leader trusted so much must certainly be someone familiar, someone whose background was well known. However, the beautiful lady seemed unfamiliar with the leader, speaking with a certain distance. They were all whispering and gossiping among themselves while Jeremiah kept his gaze fixed on Orissa without moving away. "Commander Hoffman, I've found it." Orissa stood up and walked over to Jeremiah, all within less than a minute. Everyone was stunned, gazing at her in astonishment. They had thought they would have to wait a long time. This is truly amazing. Being able to identify the problem in such a short time is truly impressive. "That's fast. Won't you check a few more times?" The subordinate who went to the dormitory to find Jeremiah reminded Orissa. He was in charge of this area and hoped that Orissa would confirm a few more times so as not to waste time later. "No need. No matter how many times I test, the result will be the same," Orissa asserted confidently. This confidence stemmed from her abilities, making people instantly believe in her words. "Can you fix it?" Jeremiah looked at Orissa, a newfound admiration in his eyes. He hadn't expected her to possess such a skill. "Absolutely," Orissa smirked. This was her trump card. Otherwise, Benjamin wouldn't have sought her out in the first place. Jeremiah nodded, then continued to ask, "How long will it take?" "It's hard to say for certain. After all, it largely depends on the cooperation from your side. If things go quickly, it could all be done in an hour, but if it's slow, it could take half a day." Orissa came over and addressed the potential issues that might be encountered, providing solutions. "Impossible. That quick." The other subordinates expressed their doubts. Their technicians had been there before, attempting repairs several times without success, each time taking more than half a day. Orissa glanced at them. "We need to replace the equipment. If you have any ready-made ones, it wouldn't take half a day." She had included the time it took to deliver the equipment in that half-day time frame. Given the resources here, delivering a piece of equipment wouldn't take half a day. It was definitely the fastest speed possible. "Whatever equipment you need, just tell him and let him prepare it." Jeremiah spoke, ensuring that Orissa had no need to worry. Orissa looked at Jeremiah. "Commander Hoffman, may I have a word with you?" A glint flickered in Jeremiah's eyes as he guessed what she was about to say. He knew that her offer to help wouldn't come without a price, so he responded to her directly. "As long as you fix it, I'll agree to any of your requests." A flash of surprise and delight passed through Orissa's eyes as she thought how much better it would have been if it had happened earlier. "I hope that when the time comes, you will keep your word and follow through with your promises. Commander Hoffman has always been a man of his word, so stop questioning and hurry up to help us fix this." Hearing her question Jeremiah's character, some subordinates were displeased. Orissa glanced at them, then still chose to speak to Jeremiah. "Commander Hoffman, I have some findings about cybersecurity to share. Can we step aside to discuss?" Jeremiah's eyes narrowed slightly. Chapter 1639. Jeremiah had everyone else leave before he turned to Orissa. "Tell me what you've found. It's just you and me here." Orissa nodded, discussing with him the issues she had just discovered while troubleshooting the network. "Someone had implanted a leak system here in your setup, almost overlapping. The other party was very covert." When Jeremiah heard this, his face turned incredibly dark, his brows furrowed tightly. This was a seriously grave security incident. Orissa glanced at Jeremiah, continuing to say, "It must have been a while, almost 3 months." The time was not short. Every second counted as a loss, and it was unknown how much information had been leaked. Whether or not it had harmed the interests of the nation and the family and threatened the security of the state, only Jeremiah was clear. His face was grave. Starting from 3 months ago, things had not been going well for their team. On the other hand, their opponents were having a field day. Everything was just going too smoothly for them. He had assumed that the other party had planted someone, but he didn't expect that the problem actually lay here. Had it not been for the fortuitous encounter with Orissa this time, who was chosen to do the repairs, this would not have been discovered. The continued theft of secrets by others would result in a significant impact. Fury simmered in Jeremiah's eyes. Recently, The international scene had been far from peaceful, with obstacles cropping up everywhere. The crucial secrets that individual had obtained from here were undoubtedly suspected of being leaked. Can we find out who did this? Jeremiah was troubled. Without evidence, they couldn't apprehend anyone. Mere suspicion wasn't enough to punish the perpetrator. Rashly detaining people would only alert the wrongdoer. You could give it a try. I could upgrade your system for you, one that guarantees absolute confidentiality and security. Rest assured in using it. Another system would be deliberately exposed to them, naturally mixed with some misleading information to confuse the other party. From here, we could trace their address and even obtain their information. Observing Marissa's confidence, he figured this wasn't her first time doing such a thing. She definitely had the capability. Jeremiah admired such talent. Don't you think your skills are underutilized working at Graham Group? Marissa paused for a moment before realizing that Jeremiah was complimenting her. She then gave a small chuckle. Commander Hoffman, aren't you afraid that I'm just fooling you? You need to have the knack for persuasion. Jeremiah was impressed by her intelligence and couldn't help but exclaim, Benjamin is fortunate to have a wise and virtuous partner like you in his life. It's indeed my great fortune to have met him. Marissa's eyes were filled with immense happiness. Jeremiah's lips twitched slightly. He wanted to reveal Benjamin's whereabouts. However, upon seeing the radiant smile on her face, he couldn't bear to shatter it. You two are very much in love. Unable to discern whether it was envy or some other emotion, Marissa gave a faint smile, her response somewhat reserved. It's all right. Jeremiah wasn't even married yet, and there she was, flaunting her affection so provocatively, stirring up envy among others. Commander Hoffman, regarding this system upgrade, I believe it would be best if you didn't let too many people know about it to avoid raising any unnecessary alarm. You could assign someone you completely trust to take charge of this. Why should I look elsewhere when you can take care of it? Jeremiah didn't even have to think about it. Marissa was taken aback, looking at Jeremiah, who didn't seem to be joking. She quickly refused, I can't. I'm not part of your team. I can hire you right now to be in charge of our base's communication security. Whatever salary they're offering you outside, I'll double it. Or, if you prefer, we can negotiate a more suitable figure. Jeremiah was serious. Having seen Marissa's capabilities, he had this idea in mind. Even if Benjamin was being detained at the moment, it wasn't a problem. He didn't believe that Benjamin would do such things. Benjamin would be out soon. Given his status, Benjamin would never do anything to harm his interests. He was absolutely trustworthy. If you're worried about Graham Group, I can talk to Benjamin. You just need to come over occasionally. Moreover, now that you've been exposed to the secrets within our team, if you refuse to take on the role, there's an added risk of one more person knowing. When the time comes, you won't be able to extricate yourself from this. What Jeremiah said made sense, but it also carried an element of coercion and temptation, which made Marissa somewhat regret her self-recommendation. She didn't want to get involved in the complexity within. She pursed her lips, still refusing, I will absolutely not tell a third person. Chapter 1640. Meeting Marissa's resolute gaze, Jeremiah still attempted, if you have any concerns, your role as a cybersecurity consultant here is only known internally. We can keep your personal information confidential. You don't need to come and monitor every day, once or twice a month would suffice. The terms offered by Jeremiah were very enticing, and it was evident that he genuinely wanted her to take charge of this matter. Marissa looked at him, voicing the doubt that had been nagging at her heart. Why do you want me to take charge of this? Her children were still under his care, so it seemed unlikely that Jeremiah trusted her completely. Currently, you are the only one who has identified the key issue. Jeremiah had no reason whatsoever to let such a talent slip through his fingers. Marissa's mouth twitched slightly. It seemed that being too outstanding wasn't always a good thing. Let's first address the issue at hand, shall we? She deflected the conversation, not wanting to dwell on this problem. Jeremiah nodded, calling everyone else in to follow Marissa's command. Marissa listed all the necessary equipment, instructing them to prepare everything. While waiting for the equipment to be returned, she wasn't idle either. She began working on upgrading the system. Just as she was busy, a call came in from Bradley. Seeing the caller ID, she was taken aback and quickly answered. "Boss, I'm all set. Should I start now?" Subconsciously, Orissa glanced at Jeremiah. Their eyes met, and she quickly averted her gaze. "Hold on, I'm busy at the moment. I'll call you when I'm done," she said. "Should I come over to find you?" Bradley was still somewhat concerned about her safety. "It's okay. Stay in the city. You don't need to come over. I can return by evening." Orissa didn't explain much to Bradley as it wasn't convenient. She hung up the phone and continued to set up the system. Jeremiah watched her bustling about and instructed someone to bring over some snacks and fruits. "There's no need to rush. Take a break first. Don't tire yourself out too much." Upon hearing his words of concern, Orissa gave Jeremiah a somewhat cryptic glance. This matter is nothing. Compared to her previous job, this one was much more relaxed. If Jeremiah hadn't taken the two children away, perhaps her impression of Jeremiah would have been better. Upon noticing that Orissa appeared somewhat robust, others seemed to discern something. They all expressed their concern, advising her to take a rest so as not to overexert herself. "I'll rest when I'm tired." Orissa nodded in response, then immediately focused on her work. The system work was halfway done, and the new equipment had been brought back to the base. She had instructed them where to replace it, and she took charge of the system side herself. Naturally, these physically demanding tasks were handled by their team members. There was absolutely no need for her involvement. Jeremiah and his companions didn't disturb Orissa while she was working. In fact, they even left halfway through due to some matters, allowing Orissa to work more freely. Although their presence didn't directly affect anything, there was an underlying pressure of being supervised. She would feel somewhat embarrassed if she wanted to slack off a bit. Aware of the urgency and importance of the matter at hand, she dared not leave nor drink too much water. She merely moistened her throat before continuing to keep a close watch. 3 hours later, Jeremiah came over from the office, just in time to see her stretching languidly. "If you're not done yet, set it aside for now and take a break." Orissa was startled, unexpectedly hearing someone speak. It had indeed frightened her. She rose to her feet, responding to Jeremiah, "It's all set. You guys can give it a try." The equipment had been replaced, and she had also set up the system on her end. Everything was coordinated smoothly. A glint of admiration flashed in Jeremiah's eyes. "Efficiency is impressive. I thought it would take a bit more time to finish." Orissa was quite confident in her own skills, but she still complimented, "That was also due to your excellent cooperation." Jeremiah instructed everyone to experience the restored network communication. "Commander Hoffman, it's really done. Commander Hoffman, we have established smooth communication with all parties." As Jeremiah heard the flurry of reports coming in, a hint of relief finally surfaced on his face.